Hello and welcome to Ringside Reality. I'm your host, Jonathan Lilly, and I'm here with my co-host, Chris White.
Topher White, Slapnuts.
Topher. Nobody calls anybody Slapnuts. We talked about this earlier.
Shut up, Slapnuts.
I don't even know what a Slapnuts is. What does that even mean?
Maybe you should Urban Dictionary Slapnuts and you'll see what it means, Slapnuts.
But why would Jeff Jarrett, of anybody, say, hey, Slapnuts? No sense whatsoever.
Well, first of all, anybody that's listened to this born past 1999 or even 94 or something that's 20 or 22 doesn't even know who Jeff Jarrett is. But that was his whole gimmick for I think it was, I don't know, I asked you because I couldn't remember, but I'm pretty sure that was his gimmick, wasn't it? Just that he called people
Him with a
Slapnuts?
guitar.
Yeah, but he always had that. But didn't he have shirts and shit made, and his music was oh, Slapnuts, and wasn't that his whole thing for
Yeah, I don't
2
even know
years?
where it came from. Like I said, I'd expect somebody like DX or somebody more of a comedy routine to say Slapnuts. This sounds ridiculous. But he was out there coming, and it was supposed to be a legitimate insult to everybody. Hey, Slapnuts. If you said that to me, I'd be like, buddy, what the fuck does that mean? Slapnuts? Who's slapping what nuts? My nuts are slapping, or I'm slapping somebody else's?
I guess it means you got saggy balls, and when you walk, your nut slaps against your leg. That's the whole point. And that means you're fucking. He could beat you up and win the feud because your nuts are slapping. I don't know, man. Fuck. The 90s were a different time. Maybe it's set I don't know. I don't remember. I was 16 in 1999, so you think I'd be in tune with what was cool, but I don't remember anyone ever saying slap nuts in the 90s and going, "Oh yeah, man, that's cool."
No,
I don't really remember this whole era of slap
it's not really
nuts.
up there with suck it or anything like that.
No, it's not up there with hello, ladies. Was that good? Did that sound just like Val?
Did you actually? Oh, look at this! I'm looking up the origin of Slapnuts from Jeff Jarrett's mouth. Apparently.
Oh God, it's actually
here. Yeah. Give me a second here. She's loading, Buzz. Jeff Jarrett reveals the origin of Slapnuts. And let me get to it here. Fuck Matt Striker. Young Bucks. No. On the origin of Slapnuts. The fact that we were talking about it 15, 16 years later is great. But a slappy, when my grandmother coined the term, is somebody who slaps their gums together. And they slap them together because they know more and more about less and less. Someone who basically runs their mouth, so that's a slappy, and I threw in the nuts to give it a little Attitude Era flavor.
Right. Okay.
So actually it means nothing, really. So you call somebody slappy when they basically run their mouth, and he just added nuts to the end of it because, I don't know, it's the 90s? It makes no goddamn sense at all. So they're flappy nuts.
No, it does.
Basically, it's flappy nuts.
It makes complete sense because the gimmick didn't get over, and he was a fucking jobber the whole time. So I think he had a title, but he wasn't. He was never over. So it actually makes total sense. The reason why I never got over.
Well, it's famously one of the biggest burials in history of wrestling. Jeff Jarrett's is when they had China beat him for the IC title. That was done as a punishment.
Well, because he held that. Do you know the story of what happened that night with Jeff Jarrett held up the WWF at the time? There was the same thing as the Warrior. Basically, he found out he was jobbing to China, but his contract expired that night at the pay-per-view. I can't remember what pay-per-view was, No Mercy or something back in '99. But his contract was up that night, and he went to Vince and asked for, I can't remember the number. It was $250,000 or something. And if he didn't give it to him, what happened was, and WWE agents and Vince, they were so concerned with everything else, they didn't realize that Jarrett's contract was even up. They didn't even know, they weren't paying attention. But Jarrett knew it, so he used it as leverage, and he ended up giving him the money, and he showed up the next night on Nitro. But he went out and did the job to China because he got paid. But he held him off exactly. He's a little less known in the Warrior thing, but Warrior's a bigger star, so people talk about it more. But
yeah,
he did the same thing for a less amount of money, and then he ended up. He basically took advantage of Vince because they had forgotten that his contract was up. And I don't know. I don't mind it when someone sticks it to Vince every now and then, to be honest with you. It kind of looks good on him sometimes, but I wish it wasn't Jeff Jarrett because I fucking hate Jeff Jarrett.
Well, Austin did it a little bit too, didn't he? Back when he walked out.
Well, Austin did it he did it with booking. He didn't ask for any money. Once you put money on the line, I think that ups the stakes considerably, because now you're talking about taking someone's money out of their wallet. But Austin did it with Lesnar, but that was over just wrestling, like
Because
booking, really.
Austin's an old school kind of guy, I guess. And
Yeah, and he didn't want to give away him and Lesnar for the first time on like Raw, when he thought it was like a big money match that they should build for a couple of months and go to like a big 4 pay-per-view with Lesnar. But Vince just wanted to throw it away on Raw like the first ever time, and Austin walked out.
Which makes sense now. I don't know if like walking out is really the most adult professional way to go about it, but I understand what he's trying to say. Like, it makes no sense to give it away on free TV. But they do that all the time, man. They give away good matches. And I can understand wanting to put some good product on the TV. Don't get me wrong. I understand you need to put some decent matches. You can't have fucking Fandango versus Heath Slater or like...
yeah, baby!
Curtis Axel versus R-Truth every night. You know what I mean? You can't have those matches on Raw. But Austin versus Lesnar, that's like huge, man. That's...
Well, yeah. Well, at the time, Lesnar wasn't solidified as... Like, he was only like 6 months in then, but he was a main eventer already, I think. So it's like 2 wrongs don't make a right. You know what I mean? Like, Vince was wrong for trying to give it away on free TV, and Austin was wrong for walking out. So they were both wrong, and it ended up just being a shit show. But I agree with Austin. I agree with what Austin did as in not wanting to have the match, but I don't agree with him walking out.
Yeah.
There's lots of stories about people walking out. There's stories about like, the Warrior, the Jeff Jarrett thing. Shawn Michaels lost his smile, wouldn't drop the belt, he kind of walked out. And then there's Austin. It's happened a ton of times before, and most of the time when you look back on it, the wrestlers regret it. You know what I mean? They admitted that they were wrong. But I don't know, I guess that old saying, do what's good for business. If that's the case, then Austin did the right thing, didn't he? Because it wouldn't have been good for... You know what it reminds me of? You remember the Hogan Goldberg title switch at the Georgia Dome?
Yeah.
And they had 6 days promotion for it. Like, they announced it the Tuesday before the next Nitro.
It was fucking horrible. That was horrendous, man.
Well, it was a great moment for Nitro, really. Like, the pop was huge and he won, but there was no build. Like, they could have built that to be probably one of the biggest pay-per-view buys in wrestling history at that time, I would say. What? Like, that would have been a huge matchup, but they gave it away, and it was a good moment, but it was, looking back on it, you could have made way more of that.
Well, again, I agree with wanting to put big moments on TV to bring people to the product. But at what point do you like hurt your overhead by giving away, you give away the cow and when you can keep it and keep the milk, you know what I mean? That kind of deal.
Yeah, I know.
But like you're gonna give it away. You're gonna give it away on free TV or have it on a pay-per-view. The pay-per-view is gonna bring you so much more money. Put it on free TV. You're gonna get more viewers, which brings in more money in the long run. But the big deal with that was the 6-day build was fucking horrible. That's what I meant by it. Itself is not a bad thing, but I think the build for it wasn't long enough. They should have... I don't know if they should have done something like the John Cena and The Rock thing where they did it like a year in advance and built it up. But at least give it like a couple, maybe even 2 months build to it, right? And then have this big... And it would seem more epic. It'd be an epic battle, you know what I mean? Of Hogan and Goldberg. But they kind of... It was WCW, so... Speaking of bad business, that's a good segue into old TNA talk.
Yeah, TNA's done.
So, like, from what I understand, what I read today, Bound for Glory went off. They put Bound for Glory off. They had an unidentified third party put up the money for it, so I don't know who it is. They're not going to obviously tell. It wasn't Billy Corgan. It wasn't Billy Corgan, and it wasn't WWE. Now, WWE was apparently in talks for buying TNA. I also heard a rumor that was a rumor put out by TNA to get more buzz about them. So people will be more interested in TNA if they think that WWE is more interested in TNA.
Are you saying it's a rumor about a rumor?
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But I read today that Dixie Carter is saying that they're doing television tapings from now until Saturday that's going to give them a show until the end of the year.
What?
Yeah. So they're doing, what's this? This is October, November, December. They're doing 3 months of tapings in the next, 5 days, 4 or 5 days.
That does not make for a good product.
God, no.
So, the same audience is going to be at least, 3 shows in a row, right? They're not going to switch. it's I don't know how they're going to do that. I mean, if you only got like 4 days, that's 4 different crowds for the next 3 months. So that's basically almost a one crowd for every month that you're putting on TV, which doesn't that makes for horrible fucking television, doesn't it?
Well, it makes for horrible everything, because couldn't one of those people walk out and be like, yeah, so in December, so and so is going to win the belt, like.
Well, obviously, like someone from the crowd. Because anyone that goes sees that's either a tourist, because it's at Universal Studios, I was here before, and it's either a tourist or like a mark that actually watches TNA. Someone's going to leak it. Someone's going to leak I mean, it's 2016. The last show where someone walks out champion at the end of the year or something, they're going to obviously go online and be like, oh, by the way, boys, fucking EC3 is the champion in December. Doesn't that kind of like, well, it ruins everything, doesn't it?
Everything, yeah.
So, like, it's almost like the same as when, like, SmackDown was, like, taped or something. Like, nobody really watched it because what's the fucking point? Like, it's hard to watch something when you know... You sit down and watch friggin'... Like, I just watched that Stranger Things show or whatever, and it was only, like, what, 7 episodes maybe? Or whatever it was, 9 or something? I can't remember. But if I would have known the outcome of the 9th episode, I probably wouldn't even watch the first one, man. Like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
Wasting me time, isn't it?
It's a spoiler type deal, right? Like, if you're going to watch a movie and somebody's like, oh yeah, Buddy dies at the end.
Yeah,
you're like, what the fuck? I'm not going to watch the movie now. I know that's how it ends.
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio gets shot in the head at the end of fucking The Departed. Okay, I guess I don't need to watch that. Like,
yeah. So, we guess how that turns out. That's what I mean. So, yeah.
That's got to make it for good business.
So, I guess they're not going to put off a pay-per-view.
No, there's only 2. No, there's 2 pay-per-views this year. It was... Slammiversary or whatever the first one was, and this one. So they're putting off 2 this whole entire year.
That's bad news right there.
Well, I can't afford. I'm assuming that it costs a lot more money to produce a pay-per-view than it does 75 episodes of TV in 4 days. Like, I don't know. Like, TNA is fucked, man. Like, I don't even know how much that company be worth. I mean, there's rumors online like it'll be worth this, worth that. If that company's worth any more than I don't know, they got a TV deal. So I'm assuming that the TV deal is all they have for equity. Without the TV deal, they'd have nothing. If they'd ever had the TV deal on old fucking, what is it, Pop TV or something? I don't even know what station it's on, man. But if they'd ever had that, the company would probably be worth about $100,000. Honestly, I don't. It's probably worth $1 million with the TV deal, but I don't know who would buy it. I mean, it's a lost cause, man. Like, I mean, I
would say I could kind of see WWE buying it just to get the video library, just because you got Sting and you got AJ Styles, you got Samoa Joe, you got all these guys in NXT coming up, and they've had a lot of good matches in TNA that they can use the footage for.
WWE should buy it, yeah, for sure, if they could.
That's the only reason why I can see WWE buying. I mean, there's not many talents there they're going to use. I mean, most of the big talents that are down there were in WWE and failed and went to TNA to try to reinvigorate their careers. Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, Aaron Rex, Cody Rhodes.
Who the fuck is Aaron Rex?
Damian Sandow. That's his name now, Aaron Rex.
Wow. Okay.
He's their first ever Impact Grand Champion.
A what?
So they introduced a new title at Bound for Glory called the Impact Grand Champion.
What's that mean?
I don't know. It's like the universal title, I guess, in WWE. It's just another world title.
Wait a minute, hold on. Don't they still have their world heavyweight title?
Listen, they got tag titles, the Knockouts title, the King of the Mountain title, X Division title, world title, and now the Grand Championship.
Yeah, it's just a mess, right? Like, the whole company's a mess. I don't even know what grand title means, but it's kind of sad because as a wrestling fan, even though I don't think we don't watch it, I don't watch TV. I don't know about you. I don't want to speak for you, but I don't watch it. But it's sad. Like, you don't want to see any company go out of business. I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, because it just means it's just a sign of the times and how. I don't think the world is ready for 2 wrestling organizations that are on TV right now. Like I said the other day, Raw can barely draw a 1.6, so for ratings, and they're a $1 billion company. So it's kind of sad in a way, but it's almost like at what point it's like an old dying dog, like when do you just put it out of its misery, right? It's almost sad to watch, isn't it? Like, I don't even watch it, man. Like, if I was emotionally invested in TNA as one of those 12 people that watch it every week, like, it'd be pretty sad. Like, I don't even care about TNA and I'm kind of sad. So, I don't know. Like, it's one of those, like I say, just put the damn thing out of its misery. The book, it's gone too far downhill. Like I said before, I watched TNA in 2003 and 4 when I was stealing satellite TV. And I had DirecTV so I can get American stuff. I watched it when it first started. And Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and me and my buddy up here, we watched it like every week and watched every pay-per-view, and it was exciting. They had a different ring on the go. It was new announcers. The moves and the wrestling was totally different than what mainstream WWE was putting out at the time. And we kind of got hooked on it for a couple of years. And even a couple of years after, like, they were gaining momentum. And like I told you, Hogan and Bischoff came in. I don't even fucking know when they came in, to be honest with you. I think it was like 2008 or 7 or 8. And ever since they got their dirty old meat hooks on it, just like everything else they touched after 1997, it went for shit. And they could never, ever, ever recover from it, man. Like, I don't know what they did. Like, I know their booking was horrible, and Hogan was the center of everything, and Bischoff was on TV. The problem was it was 10 years later, and nobody gave a shit about fucking Hogan anymore, and nobody cared about Bischoff anymore. So what was a company that was basically promoting young stars and good wrestling turned into a company that was promoting fucking Bischoff and Hogan again, and they fell into the trap of those two guys and went from being cool, edgy, and kind of like having all the best wrestlers in the world, almost like a New Japan thing, to when you turned it on, all of a sudden you're seeing fucking Sting, Hogan, and Bischoff out there. So they kind of got like a little bit successful and decided to pump their money into the wrong place. They decided to put it into these old ass people when they had a good thing going. I thought they did anyway. I thought it was a different product for the States, especially. Like, there was nothing in America like that at the time, and especially on TV. So they kind of doomed themselves. Dixie Carter's a fucking idiot. Whoever told her to hire Bischoff and Hogan, and she listened, they should be fucking put down. It was a horrible decision, and I don't know what your thoughts on what led to all this, but that's the only thing I can gather, and I don't even watch it, but the only thing I can gather is, like I said, he went from promoting this great young company with good talents to fucking Sting and Hogan and Bischoff being on your TV, and they never recovered from it.
Well, Matt Hardy said in an interview just a little while ago, Matt Hardy said that Bischoff and Hogan were a cancer to TNA.
Who's this, Broken Matt?
Yeah. He said they were a cancer to TNA. Basically, they came in and just killed it.
Well, was Broken Matt there when that happened, or no?
No, he was Matt Hardy at the time. Matt and Jeff were there, but I don't think he obviously wasn't Broken Matt.
No, I mean, was he working for... In 2008, him and Jeff were still with WWE, no?
I think he just left, and Jeff was like champion at the time, wasn't he, in WWE?
Well, they wrestled each other at Mania 25, which was in 2009, so I'm assuming that... Well, you know what, though, like, that doesn't even matter. He knows what's going on. Like, he's inside the business, right? And I mean, I'm sure he had an idea what happened to TNA. I mean...
I read another good article the other day. It was 10 wrestlers that TNA should have picked up years ago that would have helped them in the long run. And a couple of them were really, really good because, like, CM Punk was in TNA, right? And so was Daniel Bryan. And who's the other one they had there? They had a bunch of... I tell you who, like, number 1 or 2 was. It was Paul Heyman. Now, I know he's not a wrestler, but he basically was about to sign on the dotted line to become their booker. And he said no, and he said no and took the offer off the table because Dixie wouldn't give him creative control over the storylines.
What an idiot.
So he wanted to be able to bring in the wrestlers he wanted to bring in. Like, he didn't want Hogan and Bischoff and Sting and these guys and Kevin Nash, Mick Foley, Ric Flair, Booker T, all these guys that were down at the time. He wanted to bring in guys from Ring of Honor and New Japan and these places, right? And she said no, so Heyman was like, all right, I'm done. I'm not going to join you. Can you imagine if Heyman got his paws on that back in like 2009, 2010 and started like raiding talent from these smaller independents? Man, that would be a fucking... I honestly, I don't know, it's never going to be as big as WWE. That's not going to happen.
Nothing.
But I guarantee it'd be a good alternative to watch to WWE right now. I think WWE's product would be better if that was going on right now. Now, I'm not going to say Heyman's a fucking be-all, end-all, but the guy can book a show. Look what he did with SmackDown back in the early 2000s. I mean, he was booking that. He knows how to put off a show.
Fucking guy is obviously has a wrestling IQ that not many can match, right? I mean, say what you want about him. I mean, as an on-screen character, you know damn well I'm sick of his shit. But behind the scenes, Paul Heyman pretty much probably the closest thing to Vince McMahon you can get as far as booking, and he's not a genius when it comes to promoting at all, but he's probably a better booker than Vince McMahon. If you put the two of them in a room and said, write a wrestling show, and you said you can watch either Paul Heyman show or you can watch Vince McMahon show, I don't care about booking or stars or anything. Like, if it just came down to a wrestling show, I'd probably pick Paul Heyman.
Yeah, but
as
in
an
terms
actual
of
wrestling show. No,
but in terms of like promotion and like,
well, Vince owns that.
Yeah, but yeah, he did. He basically was signing on the dotted line.
I didn't know CM Punk and Daniel Bryan even went to TNA. This is all news to me.
CM Punk, see, they had tryouts. It wasn't so much they were in TNA.
No, but well, I guess like that's hindsight 2020 is the whole saying, right? Like, oh fuck, how are you supposed to know? Like, honestly, like if I showed you a picture of Daniel Bryan when we were say 21 years old, and it was 2003 or whatever, because we're in our mid-30s now. And I said, look at this guy, and you were a huge wrestling fan back then. You were just as smart about wrestling back then as you are now. And I said, this guy's going to be like as over as Steve Austin in 10 years. If I showed you a picture of Brian, what would you say, really? You'd probably be like, fuck no. Like, look at this little twerp. You know, like, sometimes you just don't know, right? Like,
no, but I think what they were talking about in this article is that if, at the time, he was a small guy, but if they would have put him in, like, the X Division, what he could have done... What he could have done in the X Division against guys like Kazarian and Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, and you know what I mean? The guys that he wrestled in Ring of Honor, what could he be done in TNA in the X Division? With obviously, that's I think was the big disconnect. They had the same disconnect that WCW did. I mean, you had, what were they called in TNA? The Elite or something? They had some kind of like group. It was like Kurt Angle, Sting, Ric Flair, Booker T, and Scott Steiner. Remember they were like...
That sounds the opposite of the Elite at fucking that time.
What were they called? The main eventers or something?
They were called... Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They were the... I can't remember the name, forgive me, but...
and then they took on like the New Blood. Remember that in the WCW when they had the New Blood versus... Yeah. And it was almost the same kind of deal. They took on AJ Styles and these guys. It made them seem like goddamn jokes because they were taking on Scott Steiner and everybody else.
That's the last storyline I remember from TNA. That's the... Whatever year that was, if you can look up or I can look up what year that fucking main eventers or the Mafia or main event Mafia, was that?
That's what it was. It's what it was. Yeah, the main event Mafia.
That was the last storyline I kind of followed, and after that I just went for a shit. But no, I didn't know. Like the Heyman thing is different than the CM Punk and Daniel Bryan thing, because Daniel Bryan and CM Punk at that time were nobodies, and how was TNA supposed to know really that? But Paul Heyman wasn't a goddamn nobody. He was Paul Heyman. After ECW folded, he was already a legend within the business. How did you let him walk? Like, if he says, I want creative control, and your company's on the brink of disaster even fucking 7 or 8 years ago, man, if I was running a wrestling company and I was struggling and I was fucking tooth and nail, fucking clawing my way to the top, and I just couldn't break even, I couldn't even make any money, and Paul Heyman walked in and said, I'll do it, but you give me creative control, and you say no? Like, you know what I mean? Like, chalk it up to one of this, it's another bad decision by TNA. There's been a lot of bad decisions by TNA, and that's another one of them that goes along with the Hogan Bischoff. Like, so. Well,
it was Dixie Carter. Dixie Carter wanted to have the power to bring in guys like Hogan and Bischoff and Scott Steiner and Booker T, these kind of guys. And basically, Heyman wanted to get rid of all of them. Yeah. He wanted to get rid of every single star that was there, well, quote-unquote star, and build on the talent that they actually had, that they had homegrown, you know what I mean? Why can't a guy like Abyss be the, you know, like a Kane kind of, or Undertaker of TNA? Why can't AJ Styles? Why can't, like I said, Christopher Daniels? Why can't none of these guys be huge stars built up in your own company?
They kind of were. That's the sad part, is there was a niche market for it, but Like Christopher Daniels, I don't know about Abyss that he came in towards like when they start going downhill, but like fucking Daniels and AJ Styles and Joe and everything. Like people talk about what Styles did in Japan and what all these guys did. Like TNA made AJ Styles, man. Like he is 7 or 8 years tried and tested in TNA. He made his name in TNA. They built him in TNA. He is in WWE right now, and he has that world title around his fucking waist because of what he did in TNA. Way before he went to Japan, he had a reputation of being the best damn wrestler in the world. So they were doing it right, and that's what kind of pisses me off, is that they went and flushed it all away so they could bring in these old farts from yesteryear. But like, don't kid yourselves. Like I know this like thing that people think like AJ Styles is from Japan and stuff. Like, dude, AJ Styles was kicking ass and taking names and making a name for himself on national TV and pay-per-views in 2003. Like, he never made his name in Japan. And TNA built him. So, credit to them, but, I mean, they flushed all... You know another thing they did? Speaking of, we're going to rant on TNA and what they did wrong. Not signing Paul Heyman is stupid as fuck. Hogan and Bischoff's stupid as fuck. But do you remember in, I believe it was 2010... Actually, it probably was 2010 because it was when Bret Hart came back. They went head-to-head with Raw. Do you remember this? When Impact went head-to-head with Raw on Monday nights?
I remember
and
this.
I can remember it was a big deal, and they were going to go head-to-head at 8 o'clock with Monday Night Raw, and everyone was like, it's the return of the wars and all this, and it was just the first Impact, like the first ever Impact live at 8 o'clock, went head-to-head with Bret Hart coming back after like whatever many years. So, and the first Impact had Hogan returning on TNA, and it had Bret returning on Raw, and the ratings were fucking 8, man. Like, it was, for people that don't know what that means, it means, I guess, bad. WWE destroyed them. I think, how long did that last? 3 weeks, maybe?
Oh, it wasn't very long.
No, a month or something.
They quickly turned that around.
So, that was another huge mistake. They took, like, they're a small company. Like, you can imagine if you're a small company and you're making an investment. They didn't have much to begin with. And they pumped everything into going head-to-head with fucking Monday Night Raw, man. On Monday night.
See, that was Bischoff's doing.
That's a horrible decision. And it was. I don't know who was at the helm of that thing. I don't know who's the head of it. But.
It was Bischoff. Apparently, Bischoff was in Dixie Carter's ear, telling her that, like, they basically had the chops to go to head with WWE. And
so he wanted to recreate. He wanted to recreate WCW again.
Well, that's all they do, man. That's all Hogan. Well, it's not even so much Hogan, but all these older guys. They want to recreate the glory days, and even Vince, to some extent, wants to recreate the glory days of this time or that time or whatever else. How about you make something new and interesting, and be yourself? Like, can you imagine if every single book or every single movie was just rehashed over and over and over and over again?
Well, yeah,
a lot of movies are right remakes and stuff, especially nowadays, but how many of these remakes are actually good?
None.
Right? There might be one out of fucking 1,000 that's decent, that's watchable, right? But then they come out with a decent movie that's like written well and it's got its own coherent story, and you're like, all right, this is a good movie, right? I don't think rehash or trying to restart the Attitude Era or trying to do this or do that or try to be the NWO or try to be whatever else is gonna work, man.
Well, you're not.
Time has passed.
Yeah, but you're not. What you're stating is not even like an opinion. Isn't it fact? In wrestling, it doesn't work to go back to the well too many times. It never did. Like, name one thing they ever did, or WCW, WWE, or I don't care who it is. Name me one time they brought something back, and it was an overwhelming success. The Warrior left WWE in like 96 because he was fucking crackhead or something. When he came to WCW in 1998 or whatever to feud with Hogan, how'd that go?
Disaster.
How was that? When the NWO fell apart in WCW and they came back in WWE in like 2002, how'd that go? You know what I mean? It was a disaster. The last
ECW in 2007 or 2008 or
whatever it was. Yeah, how'd that go? Remember December to Dismember? By the way, anyone that's listening, go watch that if you want to hang yourself in the fucking closet. It is the worst 3 hours of programming you will ever see. It's horrible.
The first ECW match was the Zombie.
Yeah, it's a zombie.
The fucking zombie.
Name anything, even like today, they have this like whole authority thing, and the hand-picked champion. It's been done. It's not working, clearly, right now. Name something that ever happened where they rehashed a storyline. It just goes right back to the movies, which I agree with, which is, like, to me, everybody knows a good movie when they see it. It's something different. Like, you know what I mean? I like weird movies, too, like Inception or something. When I watched Inception, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. That movie just like, what? What's happening? I never seen this before. You know, No Country for Old Men. What? This is weird. Something different. It's the same thing with wrestling. Like, I don't understand how they think they can just go back and rehash it. But that's what they do. TNA is a victim of it, which we're getting back to TNA. Just like you said, they're a victim of their own fucking demise, man. Really.
Well, I think that WWE right now is the same kind of deal. Well, they're not going to go down. They're not going to go bankrupt or nothing. But I think they're a victim of the same deal of rehashing old storylines. They're just treading water, just spinning their wheels because they know they can. Like, I talked to a friend about this the other day. Raw last week was the lowest rated Raw in history, right?
Yes.
So it was up against football and the debate. The presidential debate.
That's not good. That's not good.
No, so you got some stiff competition right there. Okay. Any other company in the world, you got stiff competition, what do? You step up, you bring your A game, you try to push past it, right? No, not WWE. We'll just go paint by numbers, throw whatever the fuck on TV. Let's not try and do anything at all because we're not going to get viewers anyway. Oh, that fucking works. Like, how does that make any sense? That's like, all right, I got a restaurant, but there's a better restaurant down the street. I'm not going to cook better food because people are going to go there anyway.
Yeah.
It makes them fuck. I'm just going to cook my crappy food because nobody's coming anyway. I'm not going to try. Boo-hoo. That's fucking stupid, man. You do your best and you try to become better than another one. So when you put out the best kind of show you could to try to pull some viewers back away from that kind of stuff, I don't get it. I don't get why would they would just be like, oh, well lowest one ever, presidential debate, too bad. That's dumb to me.
There's two things that stand out what you just said to me. Is one, they have a complete opposite approach, like you just said. Their approach is, because you did text me that night and said, I guess they're going to phone it in, right? Remember? And I said, wouldn't they like do the opposite? But you were like, LOL, whatever. Like, of course they would, yeah. Right? But one is, whenever there's a big Monday Night Football game, or they're going head-to-head with the NBA playoffs, or whatever the big thing is of the day, the debate was a lost cause, because I think 88 million people watched that fucking debate. But most companies, like you said, would go the complete opposite direction. That's one thing. They phone it in when they have competition because they assume nobody's watching, which is, as a business, is a horrible decision. I don't know what the fuck you're thinking. Like you just said, man, wouldn't you try harder? But the second thing is just they're not capable of putting on a good show. It just doesn't happen anymore. Raw is a fucking dumpster fire. Even when they have a hot show, unquote, hot show these days, if you look back over that 3 hours, it's fucking complete garbage. Like, Raw is, I've said it before, I'll say it again, this is the worst WWE, I can't bring SmackDown into it, but the worst Raw's ever been in its 25-year history. So I don't even know if they tried. It's more they're not even capable of it. They have no direction. You talk about these rehashed storylines, and TNA is out of business because of it, probably, but, I mean, like, talk about underdog storyline, right? Like, my God, man, isn't that okay, look at the two things. You have the underdog storyline, and you have the U.S. versus some random fucking foreign country that, because they're foreigners, makes them bad person storyline. Those two storylines are the oldest storylines in the history of fucking wrestling, and they are just driving it in the ground. You still got Rusev there, right? I mean, who cares anymore? It's like every action movie ever. Who's the villain in every action from the 80s and 90s in every movie? It's a foreigner. You know, just because you're from Russia or Europe or some fucking country doesn't make you a bad person. But WWE's stuck in the fucking 80s, man. Like, Vince still thinks the fucking USSR's on the go, man. Like, oh my God, this guy's not American. He must be evil. Unless you're from England or Canada, which makes you a nice person. Any other country in the world, you're evil. It's 2016. People don't chant USA. USA, like they used to. But just like we were talking about, they go back to the well so many times, and people just don't relate anymore. You don't relate to this shit anymore, man. It's 2016. Like,
because
everybody...
The world's a
different.
smaller place now. Like
like it just doesn't hit a fucking it don't tug on your heartstrings, man. When you see someone from like Slovakia come over and be like, "I will crush your country," it's like, no, you won't. We're great allies, and Obama just donated like $12 billion to your army, and like,
aren't you in the United Nations with us? And
you're like it's just, but they keep going back to it, and the ratings are in the tank because of it. So I don't know, but
because it was a different time back in like the 80s when you had the Sergeant Slaughter and like Iron Sheik and all this stuff. It was like the Gulf War was going on. So, and you had Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter and that kind of deal. And Sergeant Slaughter turned on America and went with Iraq, and the war was going on at the time. So you got people emotionally invested. Remember they told a story about how like Slaughter had like death threats and stuff, and they were going to murder him, and like there's people going to assassinate him and stuff at the stadium.
Yeah, that's all made up though, eh?
Yeah, but like that's the stories, right? But people had to have some kind of emotional response to it to even think of that storyline.
Oh,
right now, I'm not going to be like, oh well, this Russian, well, big deal, like, he's not the fucking, we're not in the fucking was it the Cold War with the Russians anymore, right? Like, why is the Russian so bad? Like, I've met tons.
Because Vladimir Putin apparently is evil.
But
which he's
I
not
met
a
Russian
good person,
people before. Like, I've met Russian people. I've met people from the Ukraine. I've met people from China. Well, they're just normal people. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it makes you evil. In Vince McMahon's head, and anyone that does watch wrestling a lot that happened to stumble across a podcast like this or something and go, what are these guys talking about? It's 40 years of it now. It's like I said, if you're from any foreign country besides Canada, yeah, pretty much evil, and you want to kill all the Americans. Like, that's how bad it is. It's not just you're evil, you want to take out the good guys because you're evil. Like, they portray it as you want to kill everybody in the country. It's just because you're a foreigner. But, like, in the 80s and stuff, like, the world has gotten a lot smarter with shit, too. I mean, whatever was fed to you on CNN in the 80s, you didn't really have a way to go on the internet and look it up and kind of make your own mind up and go, this is bullshit. I just read an article on it. I just made up my own mind. I don't agree with what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, since the 2000s, everybody's smartened up on the rest of the world's foreign affairs and stuff. Like, you can't just tell people that, Rusev's bad because he's from Bulgaria. Well, everybody kind of knows because we have the internet and we can watch fucking, just because CNN says it doesn't. Like, back in the day in the 80s, most people probably were like, oh yeah, well, they are bad. But these days, people actually research for themselves and they go, like the millennials and stuff, they go, no, that's not true. So nobody gives a fuck. Like, nobody's going to sit there and let Vince McMahon tell them that this guy's from Russia and he's evil. Like, what are you talking about? That doesn't relate to anything that's going on in the world today. I mean, this is true fucking 80s, man. Like, you're stuck in the past. So it's caused problems in WWE because you're rehashing it. And, I don't know. See, I guess that's all I got to say with that.
I think you hit something pretty good right there. You said that people are smarter nowadays. So I'm going to take, for example, Raw and SmackDown. So the storylines that are on SmackDown that I'm interested in because there's emotion in it. So let's say it is Dolph Ziggler and The Miz. Their promos are putting off are fucking crazy, man. Like, there's emotion. You can almost, like, it almost seems like they really hate each other and they really want to fight, and they got that emotion right now. Ziggler's putting up his career, and it seems like if I didn't know wrestling was fake or predetermined, quote unquote fake, I'd think it was a real fight. But then you watch Raw, and there's none of that emotion. It's just like, Rusev, like I said, Rusev comes out and he's like, Rusev crush, and then Roman Reigns comes out and he's like, I'm not a bad guy, I'm going to beat you up. And he's just no emotion to his voice whatsoever. He's like a goddamn robot. Even like John Cena and AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose and that kind of deal. Even their little like feud they got going, it's the same kind of deal. There's a bit of emotion. AJ Styles is saying how he's the face that runs the place and all this stuff, which is what Cena used to be, so he's taken over Cena's spot.
I mean, not only that, you do have Cena chasing the fucking record for the title at No Mercy. So, like, you want to throw on just a cherry on top, besides the fact that AJ Styles is taking over Cena's spot, does Cena have enough time left in his career because he knows that he's stepping back and Styles took over? is there enough time left to match the record? Like, there's a lot of little stuff in that storyline, right?
But when you watch Raw, there's literally nothing.
No, Raw's horrible.
So Seth Rollins is against Owens, right? Why?
Yeah, they don't hate each other. There's absolutely, like, just a quick little thing. I was at your place last week. I was back home in our home province, and I was watching the pay-per-view with you, and I didn't even want to watch the main event because Seth Rollins and Owens have no history. They haven't even, and you don't need to have history sometimes when it's personal, but all this feud is about is someone else. It's all about the McMahons and Triple H, and is Steph on Triple H's side, and is Steph trying to screw Rollins, or is she not trying to screw Rollins, and does Rollins believe what Steph is saying, and all this. There's no emotion to that feud at all. I do not give a fuck who wins the match. I really don't. Like, I like Owens as champion just because I'm a mark for Owens. Like, I do like Owens. I think he's fucking hilarious. But at the end of the day, I don't care about watching the match because I have no investment in it. But like you say about SmackDown, there's a lot of things. Like, who would have thought, if I would have asked you a year ago that, you know, the 4 horsewomen or whatever?
Yeah.
If I would have asked you that Raw would have Charlotte, Sasha, and who's the other one?
Bailey,
and SmackDown had Nikki Bella and Alexa Bliss and Natalia and all this, and I said, who's going to have the better women's division? What would you have said, Johnny?
Oh, you'd say Raw for sure.
Exactly. Which one's been better, Johnny?
Oh, SmackDown for sure.
Exactly. Because it's actually a story then. So I'm watching SmackDown's women's division, and they're smoking Raws, because not only is Raw botch fest for women's division, they're trying hard. Like, Dana and Charlotte, a little bit into it, I guess. Like, I don't really care, man. Like, but you turn on SmackDown, and you know what it is? It's old school booking. It's not old school storylines like the underdog and everything. It's just booking. Like Dean Ambrose said on Steve Austin's podcast, you want to make something up about a match before the match starts? I know you got a bad leg. I know you have a bad leg because I seen you limping a couple of days ago. You know what I mean? And you bring that into the match, like the pre-match interview. There has to be no back history in the fight at all. Me and you were fighting right before the match, and we're having a little promo before the match. I don't even know who you are. The fans don't even care what we're doing. But as soon as I say, like, I seen you limping, and I know you got a bad leg, and I'm coming for that leg tonight, all of a sudden the fans are like, oh, is he going to take the leg out? Is he going after the leg? You know what I mean? Like that old school mentality of just, I'm smarter than you, and I'm going to win. And Raw, it lacks all that. It doesn't have anything. And it's 3 hours long, which is horrible.
Well, like I said, there's no, in my opinion, there's no emotion. I don't feel any emotion when I watch any of the storylines for some reason. I don't know if it's just like...
Titus O'Neil versus Darren Young?
I don't know if it's just who's involved in those storylines or what it is, or it's being written badly or something, but like SmackDown, I'm actually interested. Even the shittier storylines on SmackDown, I'm still interested in it.
Well, they're not shitty storylines. There were
No,
people that were treated like there were people that were treated like shit for years, and we consider them jobbers. But once given a decent storyline, you realize that these guys aren't jobbers at all. They're like, holy fuck! I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm not even minding the Usos as a heel team going after like American Alpha's kicking ass, and the Usos are a heel team now. Like you hate the fucking Usos, don't you? Like
I do.
Exactly, but since they turned heel, I'm like, you know what? They don't come out and go, ooh, so. I'm like, I can deal with this because it actually gets me invested in it.
Yeah, like I hate the Usos so much, but I have to agree with you there. I mean, just the fact that they've put the effort in to try to change their character and they're doing something different. So, does this come to the point where, like, the New Day, for example, is it time for them to, like, they should do something new? Like, I don't really care anymore, you know what I mean?
They got to turn heel, bud, because they're becoming a lot of hard work lately, the New Day, right? Like, they're becoming almost the old cringeworthy word is going to come out for those guys. Because when they come out now and they go, oh, because... You know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, God.
The first time it was really funny, and then now it's just like, oh, like this again? This same old shtick?
Well, it's been 2 years, right, almost?
I think that's what's going to happen to End Zone Cass, man. They're already getting...
don't... Well, you know what I feel about End Zone Cass.
Yeah, but, like, the same kind of deal. It's the same shtick every single week, man.
It's for fucking kids, man. And that's, like, everything that we talk about that's cringeworthy as adults. And by the way, the demographic of wrestling is not kids. Raw's average viewer is over 50 years old. like the average viewer of Raw is between 40 and 60, late 30s. Kids don't really watch wrestling that much anymore. They're aiming their demographic. They're marketing to an audience that doesn't exist, because it does, like, this is the funny part about it is they have a marketing team that get paid like a lot more than I do to figure out what we got to do. This is what we got to say. This is what we got to market. We got to market this team that can be aimed towards kids and blah blah blah. When kids don't actually watch fucking wrestling because it's on till like 11:30 at night, man. On a Monday night, kids are gone to fucking bed. The average viewer is 50, 60 years old. But everything we're talking about, kids love. It's fair enough. But my God, man, I'm not a child. So is it selfish for me to say this is shit? Probably. But at the end of the day, I'm part of the average demographic, so I should have my voice should be heard louder than some fucking 6-year-old in his mom's basement that's like, Mommy, I want to go see the Enzo and Cass. They're fucking cringeworthy. It's for children. Like, their whole Raw especially, like, SmackDown is moving more in towards wrestling and storylines, so a person our age can actually relate. Dolph Ziggler, Miz, you touched on it earlier. I don't care what age you are, you're gonna feel sympathy for Dolph Ziggler in this storyline. If you don't, you're not a wrestling fan. You gotta be invested in if he's gonna win or not. Look at that promo he cut off last week. You know what I mean? You got to feel something.
Well, it's emotion. There's genuine emotion there.
And it doesn't matter how old you are. That's what wrestling got popular, because it was for everybody. For kids, all ages, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. Raw's for fucking children, man. Like, Enzo and Cass, I don't know what mark in the IWC goes on the internet after Enzo and Cass comes out and is like, ooh, they're so good. They're indie wrestlers. They're fucking cringeworthy. Listen to them. When they come out, like, listen to this shit. Who in their fucking 30s is going to listen to that and go, oh, man, that's sweet, yeah. Oh, yeah, you can't teach that. Like, are you fucking kidding me, buddy? You go fuck kill yourself, man.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like, a New Day's the same thing these days. Like, booty O's. Who? What the fuck are you talking about? Aren't you married with, like, 3 kids?
Yeah. Fucking Kofi Kingston's, like, in his early 40s or something, like... You know what I mean?
Like, are they treading on... They're treading on DX reunion material. Like,
yeah.
Boys are like 70 years old. Like, I just don't... Like, SmackDown has real storylines. Like I said, every age group can get invested in their storylines, in my opinion, because they're simple wrestling storylines. I don't give a fuck about Dolph Ziggler 6 months ago, and I didn't give a fuck about The Miz 6 months ago. But now I care about both of them greatly. It's the best feud in wrestling.
Two of them are like... Well, two of them are... Well, we all knew they were good workers. I mean, Dolph Ziggler's a good worker, and Miz is a good worker, whatever. But at the time, like you said 6 months ago, they were still wrestling each other. I seen a thing on Botchamania the other day, one of the endings was talking about the song that never ends. Remember from Lamb Chop? And it showed all the matches that Dolph Ziggler took on The Miz. And this has been going on for like fucking a year and a half, man.
Well, you were texting me the whole time. I remember you writing me all the time, like, if I see Ziggler and The Miz one more time, I'm going to jump my ass in front of oncoming traffic. Like, You were just done with it. You were like, I can't handle it.
There's only so much two people can wrestle. But they've actually found a way to make it enjoyable again. Like, I'm actually interested to see what's going on. I don't care that they've wrestled 100 times before. I want to see them wrestle again now because Ziggler's career is on the line or whatever else. For example, okay, Cesaro and Sheamus. So, they do this best of 7 series.
Horrible.
They've wrestled fucking numerous times before that, so it didn't really matter. It comes down to the final one. They call it off. Everybody's like, oh, maybe we'll get, like, the final match will probably be in like a steel cage match or something, like something special, right? Like a big blow-off. No. They're now a tag team for no reason whatsoever, and they're getting a title shot for no goddamn reason whatsoever. How does that make any sense? That's the stupidest storyline I've ever heard in my life. Like, how am I supposed to get interested in that? 2 guys that just hate each other are put together for no reason whatsoever, and they get a title shot over every single other tag team that goes out there every week and are actually a goddamn tag team. So
it's the worst storyline, I think. It's the worst booked storyline besides, like, 2016. There's 2 storylines that stand out. One, the one you're talking about.
And Shane Undertaker?
Shane Undertaker.
Yeah.
So, which is still, that takes the fucking cake. But, could you imagine if the fucking Montreal Canadiens were playing the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup Finals in a best 4-7 series, like it always is. And it's the Leafs and Habs. And it's going to be the Stanley Cup on the line. And they go 3-3. And it's in Toronto. Game 7 in Toronto for the Stanley Cup. And nobody won it.
And then
NHL teams them together.
NHL comes out and says, you know what? We're going to combine Montreal and Toronto, and they're going to take on like some Russian, or like they're going to take on some Russian team for like the World Championship.
Yeah. So
like, what?
Like everybody out there who ever pictured their favorite team in any sport, Johnny, you just came over. It's Saturday night. It's the Leafs and Habs for the fucking Stanley Cup, baby. You got 20 people here. There's booze flying. There's pizzas on the go. Everyone's fucking smoking dope. All that good shit. And the game's over. Ends in a tie. Nobody wins the cup. Like, now you tell me what smart business would be like, Gary Bettman walks out after and goes, looks like nobody won, so, yeah, they're taking on the Russians next week for the World Cup of Hockey. What? What the fuck just happened? Where's the Stanley Cup? The Stanley Cup's not even here. Like, it
doesn't make any sense. And so the funny thing is, the match was decent. They put off a decent set.
Fuck, Clash of Champions. That was the match of the night, in my opinion.
Yeah, they put off a decent match. So that's like saying, like you just said, they was watching this deadly hockey game where like 1-1 goes to overtime and all this stuff, and they're like, yeah, guess what? Nobody won. Nobody gets the cup. You're like, oh, okay, what a disappointment. Like, you get that climax, you're building to this climax, and then they just cuts the legs right out from under you, and it's done and over with. How can you get invested? How can you get invested in that? Let me
ask you a question. If that happened, if you were a hockey fan, you don't like wrestling, so if that happened as a hockey fan, and nobody won the Stanley Cup in Game 7, would you tune back in next year? Or would you be like, fuck that? Right? So it's simple shit, like fucking simple shit that they do. You wrestle 7 matches. You make everybody sit through 7 matches, which, by the way, ain't easy. Sheamus versus Cesaro 7 times in a row without wrestling anybody else, just those 2 guys wrestling each other. That ain't easy, man. Like, as a wrestling fan, you gotta sit there, you really gotta grind your teeth. You might as well fucking make a sandwich and get a glass of milk, because it's going to be a long night when you watch that shit. And then at the end of it, nobody wins? Like...
So that's what I don't get. What? Like, so they play it off as somebody was supposed to get a title shot at the end and all this stuff, right? So it could be used as an excuse to give a guy a push, which is what people thought it was going to be. They're like, all right, well, Cesaro's going to go down 3-0. He'll come back. He'll win. Maybe they'll finally give Cesaro a push. So, if they didn't want to give Cesaro a push in the first place, or Sheamus, why put him into the fucking storyline? Write somebody else into it, man, that they're gonna push. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, let's say they're gonna push, I don't know, fucking Apollo Crews. They're gonna push him, let's say, or a Baron Corbin or somebody.
Oh, God!
But let's say, for argument's sake, they're gonna push these 2 guys. Well, then put them in the match and push them. Don't put 2 guys into a match where you're not going to actually do anything with them. They knew beforehand they weren't going to do anything with it. So why even do it?
Like they said, remember they were guaranteed the title shot? They're like, well, this is your title shot, the tag titles.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'd be like, buddy. Yeah, I'd be like, buddy, I just fucking went through 7 matches, almost killed myself in the 7th match, and you give me a tag team title shot?
Well, and the best part is anyone that's seen it, because I don't know who the fuck actually watched that pay-per-view, probably nobody, but anyone that actually seen it, we're not even talking about how the fucking match ended. It's not like the 2 of these guys wrestled on the 401 and they got hit by a Mack truck and the boys were laid out in a pool of their own blood and couldn't continue. No. Sheamus and Cesaro clotheslined each other over the barricade and they stopped the match. That was it. They were like, it's not like I said, the boys didn't jump from the World Trade or something and be like, oh God, she's over. No. A clothesline over the barricade, which we see at least 65 times every single fucking Raw. That's how they called the match off. And, by the way, 10 minutes later, they were both up and looking to fight again, but for some reason, conveniently, Foley or Steph didn't happen to come out and go, this match can't end like this. Let's start it again. They didn't do it that time. They stopped the match. Cesaro was standing on the turnbuckle calling Sheamus back, and Sheamus was like, I want to get back. Let me wrestle. They were like, no. Well, even though it's the 7th match, the all-important finale to this horrible feud, let's not continue it. Let's just stop it because of a fucking clothesline over the barricade.
the funny thing is they called it out last Monday when they were in the ring talking to each other, and Cesaro said he's like, I was the one in the ring ready to go, and Sheamus was like, I wanted to go, but the refs wouldn't let me, and he was like, well, you were being held back by 4 refs. I was here wanting to fight. I'm like, oh, okay, this is just ruining it. It's ruining the fact that they call the match. So wouldn't it have been smarter for like Sheamus to have like slammed him, or 2 of them slammed each other or something, like fell off the barricade onto the announcer's table and went through the announcer's table?
Yes,
like
that's what I mean. It should have been better if you were up on the fucking goddamn entranceway and they both fell into, you know, the old spot where they fall and the electrical shit blows up?
Yeah.
They've done that for at least something. Fall off the barricade and fall into the fucking speakers or something, and there's this fake old pyro shit that comes up, and it looks like they both got goddamn electrocuted. And that's it. And they carry it, by the way, both those jabronis away on stretchers, because it makes it look like they literally could not continue. They're both on goddamn stretcher. They can't fight. Instead, they clothesline each other over the barricade. 6 seconds later, they're both standing up looking for a piece of each other. Let them go. Let them go.
I mean, it's horrible story. It's a horrible storytelling.
It's raw. It's raw. It's not even like that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't know who's writing it, but whoever's writing it is not doing a good job.
I think Dusty Rhodes is writing it or something.
Okay, Dusty Rhodes, dead man writing the show.
He's dead?
Dusty Rhodes is.
Oh yeah, he died a couple years ago, did he? Or last year?
Last year, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Dusty Rhodes still alive. But yeah, like, I don't know.
Dusty Rhodes is not still alive.
Or sorry. Okay.
Dusty Rhodes still alive.
Bye.
Dusty Rhodes. Dream.
He's the son of a plumber. He's dead, alright? So anyway, the show's got to come to an end. It's almost an hour, but I do have a Topher tidbit for you, which is fucking hilarious. This is probably the best news I've read in a while. I don't have any music for Topher tidbit tonight, sorry. It's been a long day. But the one and only Nature Boy, woo, he's drunk again, and
he's on the rampage.
He's on the rampage again. He's balls deep in a fifth of Jack Daniels or something, because apparently. He has not apparently, but he has said that in her prime, I'm talking about prime, there used to be, for people that are younger, Halle Berry was a fucking sex icon in the early 2000s, and maybe a little bit later. She was like the hottest shit on the planet for a while for a lot of dudes. She was this black fucking bombshell. And apparently Ric Flair fucked the guts out of her back in the day. So I'm not sure what the fuck he's smoking. But if you tell me right now that you believe this story, this podcast is over. We're never doing another podcast, and it's the end of me. Because if this is true, then I will seriously chop my own dick off.
Well, apparently, what I read was he was asked by a newspaper in Atlanta. All right, what's going on there, boss? I was asked they asked him in this newspaper in Atlanta who rode Space Mountain, is what they said. Right? Remember he used to say, like, you know, they're riding Space Mountain, yada yada.
Halle Berry did?
So he said Halle Berry rode Space Mountain, and from what he says, it was during a time when she just split up with her first husband or first celebrity boyfriend or something like that. He said the guy's name, I don't remember what it was, but apparently she was living in Atlanta or something at the time, and he hooked up with her. I don't believe it whatsoever.
No?
Like I said to you, the only way that guy's getting with her is if he drugged her. That's about it. If he met her in a hotel or in a bar somewhere, she might have said like, "Oh well, hello," and he might have said, "You're Halle Berry." She might have recognized him. I mean, Ric Flair is especially in Atlanta. She might have said, "Well, you're fucking Ric Flair," and I could see him being like, "What's that over there?" And she looks the other way, and he fucking slips a roofie in her drink, and then you know what I mean. That's how she rides Space Mountain, fucking all passed out. But I
sounds like she was fucking. Well, she definitely got raped. I guess that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I will go on record and start.
So we're saying that Ric Flair date raped Halle Berry.
Well, it's gotta be, man.
What a headline.
Fucking 2001 56-year-old fucking Ric Flair date rapes young Hollywood star. Like, because that's what happened. I mean. He did. This is made up, obviously, but Flair's out of control. I love it. Like, it's good entertainment. What did she? I didn't know. I didn't actually read the article. I just seen the headline, so I didn't know that she rode Space Mountain.
Yeah, I
But
read the article. Well, it wasn't a whole article. It was just a clip from it. I just read it on
boy, what he
Wrestling
really means to
411
say, Flair clearly is drunk, and what he really means to say is that throwdown fucking swordfish or something that jerked off to her tits one night and fucking thinks that he banged her, because there's no way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck? He's fucking loaded one night, put on Monsters Ball, and seen old Billy Bob Thornton ramming the fucking shit, and was like, oh yeah, woo! So, I mean, anyone that believes that's fucking. Is there any more tidbits? I don't have any more tidbits because I've been away for a couple of weeks on vacation and stuff, so a little bit out of the loop on the. We always talk about the little nuances, I guess, the little things in wrestling, and I like that part of the show, but I don't really have much because I've been away, and I was back hanging out with you, obviously, so.
Yeah, Chris was home hanging out with us. We watched Night of Champions or Clash of Champions, whatever it was, and yeah, we had a good time. We got drunk. We got drunk and went downtown in St. John's. One little, not tidbit, but
right. We all knows what happened that night. We're not going to get into that because it's a wrestling podcast. But
yeah.
Let's just say she wasn't PG by the end of the night.
Well, I just got to give a quick shout out. I did a podcast on Saturday. This is Monday right now. On Saturday, a couple days ago, I did a podcast with a friend of ours, Curtis Hunt. He does a podcast for his company called Heromode.
Love you, Chris.
Is that you clapping?
Well,
I don't know. Oh.
You know I got mad respect for K-Dog.
Well, it's a C, but
shut up.
I didn't know you were clapping. I just heard like it in the background. But no, yeah, I did his podcast. It's called Heromode. If anybody wants to check it out, it's Hero Heromode. Heromode.
I heard you selflessly promoted yourself on Heromode.
We did, or I did, sorry. I basically, well, he brought me on to talk about wrestling, obviously. Me and Curtis go way back. I mean, Curtis was a wrestling fan back in the day. When we were teenagers and stuff, and he kind of did the whole backyard wrestling thing with us when we had it going, and he was into it a bit, but he's after falling out of it, so it was good to get a casual fan's view on a lot of this stuff. We talked a bit about CM Punk, we talked about casual wrestling fans, who they like, and when you talk to people and they're like, oh, my favorite wrestler was Jake the Snake, or something like that. We talked about us going to Survivor Series in November, and I plugged our Twitter and our Facebook and all that kind of stuff, so I'm sure Curtis is going to have it up soon. I'm not sure. I didn't get a link for it yet, so when it does come up, you can check it out. I don't know how long it went. It seemed like it went forever. I don't know if it was like an hour and a half or something, but it was a pretty long podcast.
I just want to say to Curtis, because a little story for everybody before we go. Curtis hosted Johnny's bachelor party a couple of years ago, before he tied the old ball and chain down. And we did a podcast that night. I guess it would be in the Forgotten Lost podcast now, because we were all hammered at I showed up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon thinking that I was walking into, a couple of drinks and get things moving. No, the boys were already fucking hammered out in the shade partying. And we did a podcast like that with Curtis, which is the only time I did. And I don't know what the hell we talked about, but it went on. It must have been a couple hours, maybe an hour and a half. It was Johnny and all his good friends and me. I came down from Ontario for his wedding, and I don't know what the hell we talked about, but apparently all I remember is, and I don't know if it still exists, but at the end of the night someone said the podcast got deleted. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if Curtis still has the podcast that we did for your bachelor party, but
I'm not sure. I thought I heard somebody say the same thing too. I thought I heard somebody look at whatever we recorded on. It was like, oh, we deleted it somehow by accident or something like that. But
maybe it was on purpose by someone that actually wasn't hammered, had a grain of sense.
Yeah, who didn't want all that stuff to get out, whatever we were saying.
Well, I am in a relationship, and there's stuff that I shouldn't say on a podcast that I probably was. So whoever deleted that by mistake, thank you. Because, but it's good that you're on Curtis' show. I wish I was on. I know that Curtis wanted us to do a show together when I was home, but unfortunately, time passes pretty quick, and I didn't have a chance. But next time we're home, we'll sit down with Curtis and do a podcast for sure. Well,
I'm thinking. I spoke to him after, obviously, the podcast. We were talking a bit about it, and I think we were talking about. I mentioned having him as a guest on ours, so I'm thinking that's what we're going to try to figure out some.
Our first guest.
are scheduling to have him on ours because, I mean, I was on his, plugging his stuff. He's on ours. So he actually there's a couple ideas he had on his podcast about stuff that he wanted to do with pro wrestling, actually, which is kind of interesting that we'll have to talk about some other time, probably when he's on the show. But because Curtis is into like graphic design and video game design and this kind of stuff, right?
He did our logo.
He did our logo, yeah, and he's into a lot of animation and stuff. And he was talking along the lines of like, I don't know if it was, I can't remember exactly if it was a game or just an animation of like a wrestling promotion, but in a science fiction-y kind of like cartoonish atmosphere where like it's in space and then there's aliens and this kind of stuff, but it had to do with pro wrestling. And as a cartoon, right, it's going to be out there a little bit. But I think that's something he was like talking about, and he even said on the podcast, I don't know if Chris, you're going to eventually listen to it or not, but he said on the podcast that he was thinking about asking you to be one of the voices on the show. He wanted you to be the commentator for the wrestling group.
I'm not sure if that's such a good idea.
And he credited that to when we were teenagers and we had our stupid fucking, backyard wrestling, fucking around in the yard kind of deal. You used to do the commentary, and your commentary was always just so out there and like just off the wall, didn't really make any sense, and just kind of foolish. And that's the kind of feel he was going for, because it's almost like I said, a cartoonish feel, right? So it can't really be serious. So it's going to be the whole, like, if that don't put him out the garbage can and the melted cheese won't. That kind of commentary he's going to want from it. Right? Because that's an actual, anybody who doesn't know, that's an actual quote from Mr. Chris White here on a videotape that I have of him saying it on camera. I hit somebody... I think it was Chad, our friend Chad, might have been Liam, maybe.
Poor Chad. Sorry, Chad, for all those years, by the way. Sorry.
So I hit one of the guys with like a piece of metal. I don't exactly know what it was, a foreign object. And Chris goes, "If that don't put him out the garbage can and the melted cheese won't." So
that makes no sense.
I have no idea what that means, but no. I do remember when I started hitting everybody, and you were like, "Johnny's cleaning the house. He must be a butler." And then you were like, "Get him, butler." So
yes, I was brought back to the old familiar days last year at your place when I came down for your wedding last summer, and I hadn't seen those tapes in I don't know, 10 years maybe, and we watched them.
I showed his now girlfriend. So
and my now girlfriend that does exist, by the way, she's real. She's a real person, and she has a vagina.
And she's not a paid actress.
No, and your parents were there, who, by the way, I don't support your parents. All your parents were fucking horrible people. They let us beat the crap out of each other. Like, anybody that was a parent would come up and fucking be like, "Okay, you guys you gotta give this up." Like, I mean, you're kicking the shit out of each other in your fucking backyard here, man. Yeah, there was times when I was brought into Johnny's house, pretty much on a homemade gurney, I guess you could call it, a piece of plywood or something, and rubbing like a cool icy or A535 or something, some kind of heat and cooling moisturizer or something on me back, because I'm pretty sure I had a broken back. And the whole time, Johnny's father is like, "You get back out there, you get your revenge." I'm like, well, hold on a second, man. Like, I'm 16. I ain't finished school yet. Like, I got a future to think about here. And he's just like, "I want to see you go get your interfere in a match." And I'm like, "I can't walk, man."
You're concussed half
well, yeah. Well, that's the thing. There's been so much information put about concussions the last 10 years. Like everybody has a concussion now. Like, they've learned so much more medically about concussions and what it does to you. Holy fucking crap, man. Like, what we did to each other, I don't know. We were just... It was the Attitude Era. Wrestling was really, really popular. And we were super obsessed. But, yeah, to Curtis, who we were talking about before, I won't shut any doors. We'll see what happens. If I'd love for Curtis to come on the podcast and talk to us. And I would also like to hear from someone that's not, like a Mark, I guess you could say.
Just like a casual fan.
Like an outside, because you're coming into a world with me and Johnny, which is, I mean, we know everything that is to know. It's all day, every day. Like, we think about wrestling a lot. Like, I wake up in the morning and I check WrestleZone, or I wake up in the morning and I check Facebook and stuff to see what wrestling, and you know what I mean. Like, I'm just, before I go to bed, I check. If I go 2 days without checking it, there's so much stuff that happened in wrestling that I didn't know. I start to feel like I'm missing out. So it's nice to have someone like Curtis or anybody to come on and to get a feel of what people that don't watch it anymore think about the product today. And you fortunately had a chance to do it with Curtis a couple of days ago, and I look forward to doing it someday.
It's funny because he knows a little bit, because he knows of guys like Nakamura and these guys a little bit. Just I guess from reading about him on the internet, I think Nakamura kind of piqued their interest a little bit just because of his look and his style and his charisma, I guess. But
why isn't he a Michael Jackson ripoff?
A little bit. I guess just a little bit of Michael Jackson, a little bit of Freddie Mercury, a little bit of that kind of, But he knows those guys, but he doesn't watch the product to be, obsessed with it kind of deal. So I think it'd be good to get that from him, and even talk about some of the stuff he's doing. And he can self-promote himself as well, right? And talk about some of the stuff he's got in the works. And we'll talk probably a little bit about video games, because that's pretty much like what they're into, video games, animation, that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
Hey, man, let's be honest with each other. They're fucking nerds like us.
Yeah, we all got our vices, you know what I mean? We're all got our hobbies.
But our hobbies all kind of relate to the same thing. Like, there's certain things in life. I'm a huge movie fan, right? I love movies. I've seen every movie I think that's worth seeing in the history of this goddamn planet. I like wrestling. People like Curtis, they're into video games and stuff, and my friends are into video games. I'm not so much into it, but I'm along the same lines. I'm on the same wavelength as those people. I'm a nerd, right? You know what I mean? In a good way. I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all.
Oh, I'll be the first one to admit that I'm one of the biggest nerds.
Yeah, it's like my mom always said, I'd rather you be a nerd than be out on the streets peddling drugs and being a fucking hard case. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're here sitting down talking about pro wrestling when we could be out selling cocaine on the side of the fucking road here somewhere. You know what I mean?
Not so bad, is it?
No. But, yeah, I guess we'll give it up here. It's about that time again. Mosey on down the old mosey down the dusty trail here.
But I would say, because we were gone for 2 weeks, this is probably the greatest comeback in podcast history. No, this is like when fucking Austin came back from his broken neck. This was huge. I don't think people need to just stop and listen right now, because this was a monumental night for everybody. We're back. We're breaking records. We got more female listeners than any other podcast ever. Girls like us. What can I say?
That's not true.
Oh, man.
Disclaimer.
I'm getting
disclaimer, that's not true.
No, I'm getting personal messages from the ladies. And apparently...
Those are guys.
Well, they might make out to be freaking ladies, but I don't know.
Hello, lady boys.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know, but I guess it's not you, it's just me. But anyway, the ladies are liking it. Well, not true. It's actually a bunch of dudes in their mom's basement dressed up.
Not even that. There's nobody listens to this.
No, someday, we're not going to stop, too. Let it be known that...
We also talked about that when me and Curtis were talking about it. We said that, we're not doing this for anybody else but ourselves.
Oh, no. We said that first episode.
We're doing this just because I don't have anybody else to talk to wrestling about that's going to keep up with me anyway. And I need somebody to get it off my chest, you know what I mean? You're the only person in my whole life that actually enjoys wrestling as much as me. And then, like I said, we can both keep up with each other on what's going on in the talk. I mean, if I sat down like this and talked to Curtis, at some point he's not going to know all the names. He's not going to know, everything about it. He kept up with me, though, a little bit. Like I said, we were talking a little bit more about more broad things, right?
But, yeah, well, he's not going to tell you about Jeff Jarrett fucking screwing someone over in 1988 at No Mercy Pay-Per-View or something. But, like I said, it goes back to me being a horrible nerd. No, this podcast is for, it can be for other people, and we're just going to keep doing it. I have no intentions of ever stopping. Unless, the product is horrible shit. I will admit it's hard for me to stay invested in it sometimes. I feel like, especially with Raw, which is the flagship show, I feel like giving up. And it's hard to sit down and talk about something that you're not emotionally invested in, because you're trying to be passionate and you're trying to talk and you're trying to convey your opinions. But if you don't care, it's like, if you're teaching a subject in school and you're a teacher but you don't really give a fuck about history and you're a history teacher, you probably ain't going to be a good teacher because you just don't give a fuck. It's like, I don't really care about Raw these days. I'm waning a little bit on the interest, but I've been watching wrestling for fucking 30 years and it's in my blood, and just like you, I can't stop. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop watching it. There's nothing that can pull me away from it, no matter how bad it is. And you're the only person that is along the same lines as me. You're the only person I know that can keep up with me as far as wrestling goes. So hopefully someday people actually do listen to the podcast and it catches on. But it's irrelevant to me, really. I hope people listen and I hope they enjoy it. But at the end of the day, it's a stress reliever for me. I get to sit down and talk about wrestling for an hour and a half. And it's not a bad thing. I enjoy it. So as long as I keep enjoying it, we're going to keep doing it. That's my opinion on it anyway.
Yeah, that sounds like a good outro to me.
But you're not doing the outro tonight. You fucking destroys that every time. Maybe you do the outro with me radio voice or something, for fuck's sake.
Oh, well, yeah. So, yeah, that's about it. I think next time, well, maybe we'll talk a little bit about our history. Maybe we'll talk about, because we touched a little bit on about our backyard wrestling days and stuff.
You never beat me once.
We'll talk about that again another time, because that's the lies.
No,
maybe we'll tell the story of like the first blood match we had and that kind of deal. Maybe some old stories. People likes hearing that kind of stuff.
I won't tell you the outcome, but it's predictable.
We'll talk about that next time. I think that's a good idea because everybody watches. In my opinion, I listen to wrestling podcasts a lot of times to hear the old road stories and stuff. So I mean, that's our equivalent to road stories, I guess.
Are you talking about the road story as in up in your mother's backyard beating the shit out of it or a chair in a fucking cinder block?
Yeah.
Well, whatever. It works. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we should delve into it a bit more. We have lots of... Yeah, that's the thing, is we have lots of stories. Me and Johnny have been friends for... I don't know how old you are in grade 7. What are you, 13 or something in grade 7? I don't know. Fucking
yeah, 12, 13, 20 years.
But it's going on a quarter century since we've been friends. So there's lots of stuff we can talk about. And because nobody listens to us anyway, then why not, really? I mean, we might as well just sit there and talk about it. I enjoy talking about stuff that's not Raw sometimes because we shit on Raw all the time because it is horrible, horrible garbage. But we'll talk about more of our personal history, I think. I think that's a good idea, Johnny.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think you can go fuck yourself while you're at it.
I love you too, Chris.
Well, that's another thing. I hate Johnny.
We have a love-hate relationship. We'll touch on that the next time too because that comes into the whole backstory of like our rivalry and our love-hate kind of deal we got going.
I wish you were dead in some sort of schmelting accident.
Schmelting accident.
Like, if you could die in an unfortunate schmelting accident, I wouldn't be sad. That's it. Anyway, you follow us on the tweeter. The tweeter. And
we're
Facebook.
At Ringside Reality and Ringside Reality on Facebook.
We never update our... I don't even have a goddamn Twitter account, so does that make me a horrible host? I don't even have a Twitter account. How can we have a Twitter? I don't make sense.
We have the Ringside Reality Twitter. I can give you access to it, I guess.
I only got access to my own fucking show's account. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I hate this fella. You see what I'm saying? It's a one-way street, people. This guy opens up a fucking Ringside Reality Twitter account. I can't even get into it. So he's tweeting my name. He's tweeting out shit about fucking people making me seem like a pedophile. And it's not even me. So, what's this all about? Can I please have access to my own show's account?
Yes, I'm opening up an Instagram for us too, actually.
Okay. Buddy, nobody wants to actually see what we look like. We look like fucking Mantar meets Kamala.
But yes, I'm gonna start putting some memes and stuff up there and some funny stuff. So.
Yes, I enjoy doing memes too. I'm not socially active, so it's hard for me to. I'm not into, like, I'm not like that old guy that's like, fuck Facebook and Twitter. I'm back in my day. I'm not that guy. Like, I'm in tune with the universe a little bit. I know what's going on, but I'm not, like, active in it, so it's kind of hard for me to kind of tweet stuff or put memes up.
The only one I don't really understand is Snapchat. I'm not a big...
But isn't that like a 7-second video you can send someone or something?
Yeah, I don't really get Snapchat. I don't really...
Why, Seth Rollins gets Snapchat apparently. He's sending his fucking cock to everybody. Didn't you see that?
Yes. All right, so we'll end the show on Seth Rollins' cock. Have it then.
Okay. Not exactly how I wanted to end it, but all right. So we'll be back. We're back on the go frequently, everybody. We'll be doing one a week at least anyway. Maybe sometimes we get two if we're bored. But we have a chance to actually sit down and do a show together. But we one a week. Please follow us on all the social media accounts. And we'll be back next week. And the Clash of Champions is No Mercy, right? Sunday?
No Mercy, yeah. I think it's this Sunday or next Sunday.
Yeah, next Sunday. So we'll be back probably before Raw next week. We'll talk about SmackDown's pay-per-view. We'll talk about Raw, which is on tonight, maybe. We'll go back to talking about that, and we'll tell some stories about our personal history together, it sounds like. So we'll see you next week. Everyone have a good night. See you soon. Bye.
See you.